Welcome to this video from the RiverMeadow technical team. In this soup to nuts video we'll be looking at migrating to VMware on AWS. We'll also be looking at things like move groups, which allow us to apply an application-centric approach, how we'll be able to add target clouds, which give us flexibility, how we'll be able to add a source, which shows you how easy that is to do, how we'll be able to migrate those move groups and also upgrade an OS, thereby retiring some of our legacy debt, how we'll be able to schedule migrations so we don't actually have to be logged on to do them, how we can generate reports so we can monitor exactly where we are with our migration, and we'll also show you how we do a delta migration to keep things in sync so that we don't have to migrate everything all of the time. I want to start by looking at a thing called projects. What projects allow us to do is to contain the resources and the entitlements that make up a particular part of this workflow. So we define a project and we then assign users and entitlements to that project. We can also report on the status of that project. So to set up a project, all we need is a project name and some information about the time and scales of the project and an estimate to the number of migrations that we're going to do. Once we've done that, then we can assign entitlements to that project. Now, entitlements are RiverMeadow licenses in all effects, which allow you to perform a migration. And we'll just assign a number, and that then will become available. You'll notice that it will decrement those in the default project and assign them to this current project that we're going to use for this demonstration. The next thing we're going to look at is the cloud appliance. The cloud appliance is deployed into the customer's environment onto the target cloud. So in this case, it's going to be vSphere, because this is vSphere on AWS. Now, the acronym for vSphere on AWS is commonly known as VMC, so we'll give that into the name of the appliance, and this is a demo. The next thing we need is the cloud URL. Now, this actually points, in this case, to the vCenter within the vSphere on AWS, and we need to put that in. I've blurred it for security. Then we need to put in a username and password that we've set up for access to that vCenter. So we've set one up previously, and we'll enter those in now. Then we'll enter the password, which we're copy pasting in. We confirm it, and then we can test the connection, and that makes sure that everything we've put in is valid. Then we can apply RiverMeadow tags, which allow us to sort things if the projects are large and complex. That all done, now we need to actually deploy the virtual machine. So we need to give it a data center name, a cluster name, a data store location, which data store we're going to use, how we're going to select the IP address, what network we're going to push it onto, and then we also have to select what resource pool we're going to use. We can just use a default one, and we can also use the default folder. Then we give it an app name. We usually put RMCA in the front, and thank you, Greg, for doing this demo for us. And we choose a proxy if we're using one. In this case, we're not. Then we click to deploy, and it will start the deployment process. This will spin up a virtual machine in our vSphere environment, assign it to a network, and when we're finished and it can communicate externally, it will give us the message that it's deployed. So we've sped this process up a little bit, and there we are, it's deployed. That little green tick means that we've got communication between the CA and the POP, so we're all good to go with the next stage. If we open this up a little bit, we can see that we've got a status of ready to use, and the last heartbeat was returned a few seconds ago. And we've got all the details of the deployed cloud appliance, so we can check back and check we're happy with everything. We are happy with everything in this case, so we'll move on to adding a source. So next we're going to look at adding a source. In order to add a source, we need a few bits of information. We need an IP address. We need a username and password to log into the machine, and we also need a domain if it's on a domain account. Then we can add RiverMeadow tags, and we can add other information like application groups. We'll talk about those in a bit more detail in a minute. But for now, what we're going to actually do, and what I'm doing, is we're going to add multiple sources at once. And we can do that using a CSV file. And you can see that in this CSV file, we have 15 sources to add. And as quick as that, there we are, it's done. And now what we've got is all of the sources grouped into applications using our move group feature. So now we've got our move groups and our sources in, we can start to think about migrating some of these things. And you can see they're all grouped into application groups. Now we can select one move group, we can select one machine, or we can select multiple move groups to move. Notice that when I click on a move group, it selects all the machines in that particular group. So now we click on migrate, we click on CA that we want to migrate to, and we'll choose full migration because this is the first migration that we've done with these machines. What we'll do now is the software will go away and do those second set of pre-flight checks, which we sped up a little bit. And now you can see we've got all of those machines that we selected ready to move. We're going to change the name of the plan, which is something we can do, so that it reflects what we're actually doing. And this is wave 1 of a migration project potentially. Each machine then will need to do some configuration for. And we can see that we can see the CA that we're migrating to, just to make sure that it's the right place. We're going to add some RiverMeadow tags as well. These help us to sort through things later when we're looking through the migration profiles. Now you see here we can select a date and time in the future that we can do this migration, but for the purposes of today's demonstration we're actually going to do it now, so we're just going to select migrate now. This front piece is global settings for all of the machines, and we can change those for every single machine. What we're going to do for this demo is we're going to show you each one, and we can rename the machine so that it's a different name when it lands. So in this case, to keep things simple, we're going to call the machine's demo, and we're going to name this first one Win IPU. IPU stands for in-place upgrade, so that gives you a clue what we're going to do differently with this one. You see we're going to choose block-based. We are going to put this on a network. You'll notice just above that is the ability to change the size of the machine. We've got to put it on some storage, and we've got some vSAN storage here, which is the default. And we're going to upgrade this in flight to Windows 2016. We'll go through now and we'll change the others. We're going to do a Linux box as well, so we'll call that demo Linux. We'll put that onto a network. We won't change any of the CPU or memory settings which it's got from the source machine, but we will stick it onto a particular network and we'll put it on our vSAN storage. We'll then repeat this process for the next Windows machine, but this one we're not going to upgrade, we're just going to migrate as is. So we're just going to call this one Demo Win 1. Then we're going to move further down and we're going to again put it on a network, and we're going to change the storage, which we'll have to do for each one because we chose not to do that in the global settings. And we've got another Windows machine. Again, this machine is on 2016, so we're going to call this Demo Win 2. And we're going to put it on a network, and we're going to put it on the vSAN storage. And then finally we'll do the final machine, which is also on Windows Server 2016. We're going to call this Demo Win 3. You'll notice I cut and paste those, or Greg cut and paste those for us. And we're going to put this on a network as well, and we're going to put it on the vSAN storage also, basically accepting the defaults. And then we're going to say continue. It'll go away and do that second set of pre-flights after warning us that there were a couple of warnings. We spotted those, we glossed over those pretty quickly. They weren't anything we needed to be concerned about. And we'll do those second set of pre-flight checks. And what you'll notice now is that we see every machine. Every machine that's going to migrate has now those pre-flight checks performed on it. And as you'll notice, pretty much in parallel. So now we've got the machines migrating, and we're going to fast forward through this so that we can see them complete. So as we said, we've sped this bit up quite a fair bit just to show you the steps that we're taking and what we're actually doing, but without necessarily having to watch the whole thing go through in real time. So we've shown you one of the virtual machines. This is happening behind the scenes for all the virtual machines, except for this last step, of course. This last step is the in-place upgrade. And with that final step, we can see that all of the migrations are finished. And now we can look at some of the features that we do with our reporting module. The first thing to show you is the migrations that we've done so far, failed and successful. Next we can look at who did those migrations, looking at migrations by user. Then we're going to look at entitlements, and these are the entitlements that we used and have left. And finally we're going to look at the project plan. Next we're going to look at Delta migrations. They're very easy to do, so I'm going to kick one off right now. Nothing to change, we're just going to accept all the defaults. What this will do is this will go back to the source machine and copy across everything that's changed since that full migration that we did earlier. This means that we don't have to repeat full migrations and speeds things up nicely. Typically in a project we'll do multiples of these so that we know how long they're going to take and also what the rate of change is. So the idea is that differentials don't take very long to complete. This has simply two steps. One is to prepare the target, and then the other is to copy the data across. We can do a file level or a block level differential depending on what's required and the time that we need it to take. We're going to fast forward to the end, and there we are. The differential is complete. So I want to show you something really important about Delta migrations. If we go back to the entitlements reports, you'll see that that Delta migration did not consume an entitlement, and therefore they're free. They're included within the full migration licenses. So what we've seen in this video is how we use move groups, how we can add a target cloud, which gives us flexibility as to where we go and where we land on machines, how we add a source machine, how we migrate move groups, which keeps us application-centric, how we can use a migration to upgrade an OS, which helps us to retire legacy debt, how we can schedule a migration so that we can do it in our own timescales, how we can generate reports to give us insight into our project, and how we can perform Delta migrations so that we don't have to migrate large amounts of data all of the time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's proved useful, and please come back and look at us again because we're doing lots of exciting things here at RiverMeadow.